No electricity flowing to your attic?
No. It's a part of the camera. It's nothing wrong with the attic. No, so now I'm stuck on this thing. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, big issues for Dan Snyder, and the NBA season is upon us.
Yeah.
But we begin today with the utter collapse of the Pittsburgh Steelers. After starting out 11-0, they have fallen to 11-3 with last night's loss to 14-point underdog Cincinnati, a team that had only won 2 games going into this one. Ben Roethlisberger looked lost out there. He had 7 yards passing in the first half. Wilbon, you were Pittsburgh's champion.
Yep.
Do you have any faith the Steelers can get it together?
No. No, I don't, Tony. And that's an accurate accusation. I was the Steelers champ. I was saying the Steelers not getting enough respect. Sounded like Rodney Dangerfield. And Tony, they can't protect Big Ben, really. He can't locate passers and get the ball downfield. When he does, receivers are dropping the ball all over the place. Defensively, they can't even find the ball carrier, as evidenced by the Cincinnati quarterback running 23 yards with that touchdown last night. They look pathetic in all ways. And the only thing I think they got going for them, which gives me a little bit of faith, is that Mike Tomlin, he steps out there and he accepts this. He owns it and says, we stink. Yeah. We got to get better in all the following ways. We're going to go to work. That's all we can do is go to work. And so I like that about Mike Tomlin. I know how much you love Tomlin. But, Tone, how can you have faith right now? You can't unless you're just some Steeler loyalist.
It's an odd circumstance. Ben Roethlisberger, the last couple of games, looks like a shot fighter. He looks like, we're in round 6 and suddenly he has absolutely nothing. He and Cam Newton this year look like they fell off the table. He can't go deep with the ball. He's inaccurate, as you say. They have no run game whatsoever. So a defense just lays back and waits for him to try to throw. You ask yourself, I ask myself, how did they get to 11-0? How did they beat, and I believe they beat Tennessee and Baltimore in succession. They were a really good team, and now they look terrible, like they forgot how to play. Well, don't you feel that way?
Yes, I do. They did have some health issues. And look, coaches have always, come on, you and I covered a lot of sports over the last 100 years between us. And coaches talk about sometimes when you win, Joe Gibbs used to say this to us all the time. Sometimes you win and it covers up what you're backsliding with, right?
Yeah,
and you don't really pay as much attention as you should in those weeks. Tony, how about this? How about 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1, the Steelers can't get a yard? And then on 3rd and short, they can't stop Cincinnati, which is dreadful going into last night's game. So if they had lost another game to a real team, a playoff-bound team, you could make some excuses, but they got kicked by a dog.
Yeah, Buffalo is the one loss that you could say Buffalo's a really good team. At the beginning of the year, Mike, I thought Chase Claypool was going to be Rookie of the Year. I thought him and Juju Smith-Schuster, whatever. Yeah, Smith-Schuster, that they were unstoppable, but everybody's got film, and they are stoppable. Their next 2 games are hard, Mike.
Yeah.
They got the Colts and the Browns. These are 10-win teams. I don't want to overreact. You always say don't overreact, but I think they should be desperate to win one of those games. And I'll tell you what I woke up thinking this morning, that if you're looking for a landing spot for Carson Wentz, it could be Pittsburgh. He could keep Pennsylvania. He could keep it. He could keep it.
Go from Eastern to Western Pennsylvania. All right, enough about this. It's a ball night, Tony, the first one. The NBA tips off its new season in about 85 minutes. In the early game, Steph Curry and the Clayless Warriors travel to Brooklyn to take on their old teammate Kevin Durant and the new look, formerly Mr. Tony Nets. In the later matchup, LeBron and the defending champion Lakers host the rival Clippers under their new coach, Ty Lue. Tone, which of these 4 teams playing tonight is the most compelling to you?
This is such an obvious answer. The only possibility other than Brooklyn is the answer. The only possibility would have been if Klay Thompson was healthy, and you would say, okay, now you can see the Warriors as they need to be.
Right.
But the answer is Brooklyn, and for a variety of reasons. We don't have to listen to Kyrie Irving's blathering, but now we have to watch him spread incense around the court.
I knew you were going to get to that.
Game. But there's one question, and it is, how healthy is Kevin Durant? He has not played in so long. That may be the most important question, not just for that team, but in the entire NBA. And that's why, because of Kevin Durant's return to the court, that's why the answer is Brooklyn. You can't possibly disagree on this.
You know I don't, because I've called you during multiple preseason games and said to you, Tony, I'm going to give you, whether you want to listen or not, an update on Kevin Durant. So you and I have been through that. And yes, I'm not going to disagree with you. But I will say this, Tony. I think the Lakers are compelling just because you always say the most important figure since Kobe Bryant in the NBA is LeBron.
Sure,
okay,
it's LeBron.
So you can say the Lakers, and I think they're improved. And Tony, I think that Golden State, yes, with Clay, it would be more compelling. Yes. But even without him, to see if they can go back to playing sort of a traditional style with a young 7-foot center who has got obvious talent oozing from him, but maybe not ready to contribute at a meaningful level yet. And yes, you have two holdover future Hall of Famers on that team with Steph and Draymond. So I believe that Golden State is as well. The Clippers in the team, I just go.
Whoa. You have Draymond Green in the Hall of Fame? You do?
Hell absolutely. Yeah. Draymond Green's going to the Hall of Fame.
You are talking with those other teams, and you can include the Clippers.
Right.
The Clippers and the Lakers are essentially what they were a couple of months ago. They've added stuff at the fringes or lost stuff at the fringes.
Okay.
But you're talking long term. Short term, the answer is Brooklyn. Because you have to see about Kevin Durant.
That's right.
You have to see about Kyrie Irving. You have to wonder, will Kyrie Irving let Steve Nash coach? Will they give up on this James Harden thing because they realize they're actually significantly better without James Harden?
Yeah.
Can you buy greatness overnight, which is what they have tried to do? And it all hinges on how much of 100% Kevin Durant approaches and when.
We agree on that. You're not going back to root for your old team. You're not going to root for the Nets, who you loved, who had your favorite player ever, Julius the Dr. Irving. You're not going to root for them.
Where did they play then? Wait. Where did they play then? They played in Nassau County. Thank you very much.
That's minor. That's minuscule.
Not to me. You're asking me. The Washington Post is reporting today that owner Dan Snyder paid a former employee $1.6 million in 2009 to ward off public accusations of sexual misconduct from an incident on a private plane. The agreement was confidential. No details of the alleged incident have been made public. This is the first example of sexual misconduct tied directly to Snyder. Other incidents have been around Snyder, but not at him. Wilbon, does this change things for Snyder's ownership position?
Maybe. Tony, again, keywords here are alleged and tied to. And as you said, and you and I have talked about this a million times, having covered the Washington football team all of our adult lives, essentially, at some point, we've talked about how none of these alleged incidents are tied directly to Snyder. That's the phrase. That's what makes a difference. Because that's what makes an investigation, and other owners who were turning up the heat anyway, some of them, that's what makes it more serious. But we don't know that yet. And Tony, we're not going to try to get ahead of this story. We are going to wait and see what happens with this story. That's why I said could be. I don't think you disagree with that, do you?
I think it might change things depending on the details. I don't think we will know the details, but I'm confident the league will know the details because of private investigations.
Yeah.
The league will know. And then if the league acts, we will know that something is serious there. I think the climate socially has changed, socially and politically, in the country. I think we have seen this in the last year. I don't think that this kind of behavior can be written off with a check and a non-disclosure agreement. I think the consequences of bad behavior are greater than ever. I think they're more serious than ever, and they go back further than they always did. What you and I know to be true is Dan Snyder has no allies in the league and no allies in town. And all of these things that he has done recently, including changing the name of the team, hiring a woman to run broadcasting, hiring a black man to run the team, and pledging to get rid of the sexist culture,
running away from the previous culture.
Desperation.
Yeah.
Even if they are good things, and we would agree they are good things.
Yes, we do.
The context of his ownership makes them look different. So this is one time, and I never thought this before, this is one time where I think it is possible the league would force him out.
We agree on that. And quickly, we need to transition to something. When you look at the nature of the Washington Football Club and the culture which we're talking about, and the young, previously starting quarterback of the team is reported to have violated all kinds of protocol and been maskless at a strip club.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what does it say about him? He'd already been benched. He'd already not shown up for a game, even though he should have had his butt there in uniform while he was sick, just in case. What is he thinking? I mean, what can?
Okay, so it's Sunday night after they lose to Seattle, so he's apparently celebrating the loss in a style that he wanted to celebrate, and he took accountability for it today, and he apologized.
Not
and the
good
team
enough.
said they were not planning on releasing him. You know what? As soon as the season is over, they ought to think about releasing him.
They probably will.
Because
and the apology and the explanation, not good enough. What do you think? You've been studying to be quarterback. What do you think it entails? Not that.
All right, let's take a break. But coming up, Alabama has 2 Heisman favorites. Should a wide receiver win it for the first time since 1991?
And we spent a lot of time slurping Aaron Rodgers. But do the Titans actually have a better offense? Toss up next.
But do they have Aaron Rodgers? Time for Toss Up, where I play the role of Baylor and Mike plays the role of Arkansas Pine Bluff. You got within 58 last night. Look at my hands. What's first?
Toss up, which Alabama star is more deserving of the Heisman? Mac Jones or Devontae Smith?
I love the fact that their names are Smith and Jones, such common names. It makes me smile because they have uncommon talent. I'll play this game for you, Wilbon, but my answer is Trevor Lawrence. So I'll play the game. The receiver, if he gets this, and he's got great numbers, he's got 98 catches in 11 games and 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns.
It's crazy for college.
If he wins, he'd be the first one since Desmond Howard and the 4th receiver all time. Mac Jones, who actually gets him the ball, has great numbers. He has 32 touchdowns and 4 picks. He leads the country in completion percentage, 76.4, and yards per attempt, and this is wild, per attempt, 11.4. Crazy big numbers, and again, I will take Trevor Lawrence. Thank you.
That's good, because you came up with all those numbers, and all I did was write down Trevor Lawrence. So, I mean, I'm sorry. Everybody in Alabama's angry. You know, they don't want to hear us having any write-in candidates. They want to hog this all for the Tide. And I understand those players, as you just outlined, are very deserving. Trevor Lawrence.
In the straw polls, Smith is leading in all the straw polls.
That's my vote.
I will just say this. Over the last 3 years, and Joe Burrow had a tremendous year.
He did.
But Trevor Lawrence over the last 3 years has been the best player in football.
2 of the last 3.
Next, don't hear my hands again. Next.
Toss up, they play on Sunday. Better offense, the Titans or the Packers?
So I just found this out today, and I didn't know this, and it surprised me. By the numbers, the Titans have scored more points than every other team in the league. I would have thought it was the Chiefs. It turns out Tennessee has 436, Kansas City 435, and Green Bay 434, so it's close. So the essential question is, do you like Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill? Do you like them more than Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams? And you might. I think it's harder to defend Tennessee. If everything works well, I think it's harder to defend Tennessee. I don't think people realize how good Tannehill is this year.
They don't.
He's got 31 touchdowns and 5 picks. But Rodgers has 40 touchdowns and 4 picks. And if you're asking me which offense could be more spectacular, I would tell you Aaron Rodgers has the capability of 5 or 6 touchdowns in a game.
I
so
think if
he's
you're
my
asking
answer.
what player can be more spectacular, the answer has been like, I don't know, for, 4 of the last 8 seasons has been Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not going to dispute that to you. You know, for a Packer to be my favorite quarterback in the league and one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, he's got to be spectacular. Aaron Rodgers is that.
Yeah.
But you ask about the offense. How can Derrick Henry, with his 1,679 yards and a chance at 2,000, how can he not remind you of Jim Brown? Remind you.
Oh, he does.
In terms of the speed and the power. And A.J. Brown now goes around stiff-arming people, not as good as Derrick Henry. But these guys drop you like they're Mike Tyson in addition to being a football player. And Tannehill, as you say, Tone, I'm going to go with Tennessee. Because, it's thunder and lightning.
Yeah,
it really is.
I'm going to stick with Aaron Rodgers, but, maybe you're right. That's it. Let's take one last break. Still to come was Bo Pelini Yes, Bo Pelini responsible for LSU's struggles this season. Bo Pelini.
He's responsible for a lot of stuff. And the Pro Bowl doesn't even want to see the Cowboys. Does that mean there are no Cowboys Pro Bowlers? Is that what that means?
There's no Cowboys for the Pro Bowl?
How about that?
Wow. So I guess they won't play it in Jerry World. Were they gonna? Are they back in? Happy time, people. Happy 71st birthday, Ray Guy. The first and only pure punter ever elected to the Hall of Fame. Al Davis drafted him for the Raiders in the first round, number 23 overall, out of southern Mississippi in 1973. The pick was considered insane then. How about now? Guy was a 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. Played his entire 14-season career with the Raiders and has 3 Super Bowl rings. In Super Bowl 18 in Tampa, Guy made a spectacular play that I remember to this day. The Raiders were leading 7-0, but Washington had forced them to punt. The snap was way high. If it goes over Guy's head, it might end up in a scoop and score and the game would be tied. Guy leaped. He would have been over the rim, halfway up the backboard. Snared the ball, brought it down, and punted it, averting disaster. The Raiders went on to win easily, 38-9. It was the most athletic play I ever saw a punter make.
Tony, he was as great an athlete, or looked to be that, as anybody on the field at any position when you watched him play. It took him a long time to get to the Hall of Fame, but he got there.
No, I agree with you. He really was. Happy anniversary, Roger Craig. On this day, 35 years ago, the 49ers running back became the first player in NFL history to gain 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in the same season. The only other players to do this ever are Marshall Faulk and Christian McCaffrey. Craig was a 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowler, Offensive Player of the Year in 1988, and named to the 1980s All-Decade team. But Craig is not in the Hall of Fame. He has been overshadowed by teammates Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. This past January, Craig was among 20 finalists for 10 spots in the Hall, reserved for players whose career ended at least 25 years ago, but he was passed over. Craig played 8 seasons with the 49ers, then 1 season with the Raiders, then 2 with the Vikings. Craig's teams advanced to the playoffs in each of his 11 seasons in the league. He embodied the double threat of runner and pass receiver out of the backfield. He's the standard where you say of a prospect, he could be Roger Craig.
He's the father of the modern running back. Or if you want to give some credit to Bill Walsh, which you should, Bill Walsh was Dr. Frankenstein. Don't tell me that a guy who was on the all-decade team in the 80s, coming after the likes of Walter Payton and Barry Sanders, those kinds of backs, don't tell me that guy doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Roger Craig should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree with that. A melancholy trails to Kevin Green. The Hall of Fame pass rusher died yesterday at 58. Green stood out on the field because of his long blonde hair and the fierceness with which he rushed the passer. In his 15-year NFL career, Green had 160 sacks, which ranks him 3rd all-time behind Hall of Famers Bruce Smith and Reggie White. Green also forced 23 fumbles and made 5 interceptions from his linebacker position. Green played 8 seasons with the Rams and 3 seasons with the Steelers, the teams where he is most easy to picture running down a quarterback. He also played 3 seasons with the Panthers and another season with the 49ers. He was first-team All-Pro twice and a 5-time Pro Bowler. Green coached for the Packers and Jets after retiring and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016.
Yeah, Tony, it seems to be when you just had a snapshot of him visually that he would have the long blonde hair coming out of the helmet. That was late in the career. It was more closely cropped early. But, man, at a time of great pass rushes, you see the company he kept. When you keep that company, that puts you way, way, way up the pyramid of great defensive players in the NFL in your time.
I have to say I was surprised he was 3rd. I mean, my first instinct was to say, well, Michael Strahan, Lawrence Taylor, he was 3rd. And it's an enormous accomplishment.
Huge number.
Yeah. Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Your favorite team, the Cowboys, got no Pro Bowl selections for the first time since 1989. Your thoughts?
If you stink that bad, why would you have Pro Bowlers? I mean, this is the easy one. Howie Kendrick, your boy announced his retirement. This is sad for you. How are you going to remember him?
Okay, he was a great player in a short amount of time for the Nationals. He hit the most important and most famous home runs in the history of the franchise. In Game 7 against the Astros, I mean, Howie Kendrick should never have to pay for a meal in Washington, D.C.
Hitting the golf ball again now, Tony. That's what he's hitting.
LSU parted ways with defensive coordinator Bo Pelini. Was that the right call?
You know, I don't know. Does LSU have to blame somebody? You can't just have a bad year coming off a championship season, so you're going to blame somebody. I don't know if it's the right call or not. Army invited to the Liberty Bowl, replacing Tennessee, and they'll play West Virginia. This makes you happy, doesn't it?
I'm glad when service teams play. We are old enough to remember when they were never allowed to play, when they were banned from bowl games. So good for them. Last one, the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl. I know you're familiar with that. Do you have USF or number 16 BYU?
I know 25 years ago you would say you were going to be, by the time you were 70, you were going to be in Boca. Instead, you're in the attic, not in Boca. I want to see the BYU quarterback projected to be drafted by the Bears by some people.
I got relatives in Boca, baby. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. On the Deuce again tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get us on the podcast, ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. Now, Sports